bienvenidos a esta segunda jornada de la tercera Feria Internacional del Libro INDAI 2023. Y este primer bloque del día de hoy estará coordinado por Darío Aguilar, Peregrina y Stacy Hawks. Ambos conducen el programa Literatura Actual, Literature Today, que es bilingüe, así que este bloque va a ser en inglés con traducción al castellano. Y van a tratar temas muy interesantes. Vamos a hacer pasar a nuestro coordinador. ¿Cómo estás, Darío?
Hola, Graciela, ¿cómo estamos? Aquí presentes.
Muy bien. Bueno, cuéntanos este conversatorio de qué va a tratar.
¿Cómo no, Graciela y público? Bueno, este día nosotros como conductores de este gran programa de literatura actual hablaremos de una parte muy importante a la hora de escribir, lo cual es la creatividad al momento de hacer nuestras novelas, nuestras historias, y cómo viene de diferentes partes. Esa es la plática que tendremos este día.
Bueno, maravilloso. Voy a darles el espacio y bueno, vas a comenzar con este conversatorio con Stacy.
Hi, Stacy.
Hola, ¿cómo estás?
Muy bien, Stacy. Amigos y amigas, es un honor de nuevo estar en esta Feria Internacional INDAI. En esta ocasión nos acompaña mi gran amiga Stacy Hawks, donde compartiremos, como les mencioné al inicio con Graciela, esta plática acerca de la creatividad. Hi everyone, I'm Darío Aguilar Peregrina and my host Stacy Hawks. Today's on the International the INDAI Book Fair, we're going to talk about creativity process when writing. So we're going to have a lot of fun because we have different kinds of working on our projects, so it's going to be very interesting for you, public. Y bueno, regresando a esto, comenzaremos con las primeras preguntas de este día y por supuesto a mencionarles nuestra amiga Stacy Hawks. Stacy Hawks es productora del programa también de The Writing Wall Podcast, que lo pueden escuchar en Spotify y lo pueden escuchar también en otras plataformas. Igualmente, Stacy Hawks también es una artista ya galardonada con su trilogía de Dividing Reach, Devil Reach y Patriots Reach, que son muy buenos libros. Again, welcome back. A little bit of the story of Stacy that I know. Well, Stacy produces, also directs the Writing Wall podcast. You can find that program on Spotify. Also, she's an award-winning author with her trilogy of Dividing Reach books, the one is Dividing Reach books, also Devil's Reach, and also Patriots Reach. It's a trilogy, a really good trilogy, so check it out. Well, Stacy, we're going to start with the first question for your creativity process, and please tell us everything you like. Empezaremos con la primera pregunta, Stacy, y vamos a esto. Could you tell us how is your writing process? ¿Nos podrías comentar, Stacy, cuál es tu proceso para tu escritura? Please, Stacy.
Yeah, so I write historical fiction and some true crime in my books, and I always start with characters' names, descriptions, and kind of their backstories because I really want to get familiar with them first. And then I outline the story and give events a timeline based on different things like newspapers, reports, interviews, and other available research documents that come along. Also, another process, or a process that's part of my writing, is reading about various topics. So sometimes that requires going out and finding a book, such as I did with Dividing Ridge, in order to learn more about the criminal mind and a motive of a killer. I read Douglas and Olshaker's The Anatomy of Motive and local newspapers as well. But for Devil's Ridge, I had to read a lot about antique guns and moonshine. So I pulled from other books in our local library for those. And then for Patriots Ridge, I read up on the history of N.B. Smithy, who is the creator of N.B. Smithy's store that appears in all three books, and also some of Wilkes County's history.
Ok, well, amigos y amigas, Stacy nos acaba de comentar un poco de su proceso creativo. Bueno, primero que nada, al hacer esto de las novelas creativas, ella se encarga mucho de estas novelas de historias de ficción histórica, que son ella es experta en estos temas, de hecho. En este caso, lo que nos comenta, y lo hemos mencionado mucho en los programas para quienes no nos han escuchado, es principalmente la investigación. Al investigar, Stacy se mete en esto de los personajes y también le da las caracterizaciones. Una buena investigación conlleva una muy buena redacción del texto. Y eso les encanta a Stacy, le encanta ver esos temas. Stacy, you also mentioned another inspiration. You told us And the author, do you mention an author? Am I right?
Yes, I did. Douglas and Olshaker, and it's called The Anatomy of Motive.
La Narrative of Movie. También Stacy nos comenta acerca de este escritor Douglas Ashow, que nos habla de la anatomía de un motivo. También inspiró muchísimo su trabajo de Dividing Rich Books. Y por supuesto, a la vez, Stacy nos comenta acerca de cómo esto de las caracterizaciones y al mismo tiempo cómo crear estos personajes nos llevan a diferentes partes. Stacy, on my case, well, my writing process, it's basically the same as yours, but I really was inspired by the George Lucas method. I don't know if you have heard this story. When George Lucas was creating Star Wars back in the 1970s, he always wrote several different names, and the most that stuck with him at the end he used those names and also the parts of the story. So I really like to do that when I'm writing my process. For example, Hurricanes 207 saga. For the Hurricanes 207 saga, I really was inspired in the case of the part of the action movies that I love. Die Hard is one of my favorites. The last program we talked about that. And also another thing that I really loved when working on these books was my love for movies. 2012, The Day After Tomorrow, 28 Days Later by Danny Boyle, also The Impossible by Ewan McGregor and Nicole Kidman. No, Naomi Watts were big inspirations for that story, no? So as you told me, I really like to investigate also, but also I like to create something new, something something really original that I tell myself, wow. I was really inspired also by the Disney movies, by the by many other cartoons I grew up and programs for Nickelodeon and Disney Channel. But I try to mix these things with my Latino culture and also with the things I really love, no? So at the end, that was the process for my books. Amigos, amigas, le estoy comentando a Stacy, ahora hablando en español. Mi proceso operativo es parecido al que ella me comenta de esto de la investigación, pero yo me inspiré mucho en el proceso que utilizó George Lucas en los 70s. Quienes vieron la saga de Star Wars en esas épocas, no sé si han visto, y chéquenlo por favor ahí en Wikipedia, cuando George Lucas hizo estas historias, él asignaba nombres extraños, nombres, cosas así, a lugares, y decía, pues el que más me pegue, este va a ser. Entonces, ese es mi proceso realmente. Me encanta ver cuál palabra pega, cuál palabra no pega, cuál historia podría ser. Igualmente, quienes no conozcan, a mí me inspiraron mucho las películas de Disney. El día después de mañana, 2012, las de Marvel, de DC también me inspiraron mucho. Lo Imposible. Hay muchas películas, pero eso lo vamos a hablar más adelante. Y bueno, a final de cuentas, como dice Stacy, lo importante es esto de la investigación a la hora de crear tus personajes y sobre todo, pues crear una buena historia. Stacy, another question. On your case, how do you plan your writing skill? ¿Cuál es tu plan de escribir? Please, Stacy.
So I don't really know that I have a plan for writing. I just, if inspiration strikes, it strikes a lot of the time. It can be in a car, or it could be while I'm sitting in the evening just relaxing. And that's when I pull out my phone and I'll start typing on my phone. I'll be like, I'm going to jot this down really quick and I'm going to save it. And then I'll go back and put it in like a word processor or something. But, I'm usually, for NaNoWriMo, I do try to get into like a groove of writing and a writing schedule there. So, and it's usually in the late evenings when everyone's asleep. My phone's not going off all the time, or on weekends and vacation time is another great time to sit down and write and plan your writing schedule. If you've got that. Early mornings, I know people that write at like 5 a.m. until they go to work. I don't know if that's you.
No, in my case, no, I don't write like. I write usually on the evenings as you, but go ahead. It's really interesting the process.
Yeah. That's completely it. I mean, it's just if inspiration strikes, it strikes, and if I get some free time and I'm feeling like writing, that's exactly what I'm going to do. Is I'm going to sit down and write or research or read about something that I need to be knowledgeable about in order to write. So I mean, it's just a matter of timing, I guess. And if it strikes.
Of course, at the end of the day, that's what matters when you're writing, ¿no? Amigos y amigas, Stacy nos acaba de comentar su proceso. A final de cuentas, cuando tú empiezas a escribir en una historia, pues puede surgir no tiene como ya un plan así de que yo me levanto y escribo acá, no, porque puede venir la inspiración de cualquier parte. Puede ser que ella esté muy tranquila en su auto, en un espacio tranquilo, en las noches normalmente, que normalmente yo también lo hago. Algunos incluso me comentan que escriben a las 5 de la mañana antes del trabajo. Realmente, pues ahí sí se respeta lo que hagan los demás, pero bueno, yo a las 5 de la mañana, con todo respeto, no voy a escribir, pero bueno, a final de cuentas es el proceso creativo, ¿no? Y por otro lado, pues también lo que ya nos comenta, o sea, es disfrutar el proceso y tampoco no es martirizarse. A final de cuentas, escribir es una relajación, tampoco no crean que es una obligación de que tengo que escribir, no, es una relajación. On my case, Stacy, my writing scale, well, as yours, I usually write in the evenings. I don't like to work a lot in the afternoon or the morning, because honestly I'm very distracted because I'm doing other things. I normally go to swimming, so I really like to be there and distract myself, and then returning in the evening after my work to write the novels. Sometimes even my mom and other family members have told me that I normally write too late. I normally write from 10 p.m. to maybe 1 a.m., especially in the weekends. I normally stay up late, honestly, because I'm inspired writing. For example, I'm writing right now the Three Wise Men Young saga, the third part. And even though it's a short story, I normally write a lot and say, okay, this could work, and also some discarding of other things. So it's a process like yours in the evening. It could be also in the car. I normally don't go out with my laptop and write. I have seen many other of my friends writing outside in the Starbucks or on a near cafeteria, but I don't like that. I prefer writing on my home, very with my piece, and also writing myself and say I'm enjoying this process, because you told us, Stacy, if I'm correct, you told us, Stacy, that at the end writing is a pleasure, not an obligation, because sometimes maybe some people obligate themselves, force themselves to write whatever, and at the end the story doesn't work. So it's not like that for me. Y bueno, traduciendo ahora a los que nos están mandando saludos, en mi caso le comento a Stacy que mi proceso, pues normalmente yo escribo igualito, o sea, a mí me gusta mucho en las noches, incluso hasta me desvelo muchísimo, amigos y amigas, porque me encanta escribir en la noche. Es cuando pega realmente la inspiración. A Stacy también le ha pasado que llega la inspiración en la noche y dices, oye, pues ¿sabes qué? Hay que escribir en este momento. Porque a veces en el día como que no pega, ¿no? Ahorita les reconozco, estaba yo jugando FIFA. I was playing FC24, Stacy, because I'm really big fan of football games, the EA Sports games. So I was playing, and honestly, I told myself I don't want to write right now. In the evening, it's going to be my time to write. Entonces, regresando a esto, amigos, pues ahorita estaba realmente jugando un poco de FIFA, entonces, pues no quería pues, jugar, o sea, escribir ahorita, pero a final de cuentas sí tenemos un proceso. Este proceso es tener una idea de la historia y al final de cuentas la historia llevarla poco a poco conforme nosotros encontremos la manera. Porque también lo que le comentaba a Stacy, y también ella lo mencionó, no es obligarse a escribir por escribir. No, amigos y amigas, este es un gran consejo que les damos, es escriban porque lo amen, no lo hagan por obligación. Eso yo creo que ha sido un problema. On this case also, Stacy, on the writing process, I don't know if you experience this when you write, or maybe when you were in high school or university. I remember with my classmates, in the part of reading and writing, many of my classmates told me, Dario, I'm really boring. This is a really boring activity. I don't know why we are writing. And I told myself, well, I really love writing. Sorry, my friend, but I think it depends of the person, no? Maybe some people don't enjoy too much to write, and maybe they enjoy more to read. In your case, Stacy, what was your experience when writing on those years, and also your friend's opinion on that?
Yeah, I think I had an inherent love of reading, and then writing kind of spawned from that, because as I got introduced to all these great poets like Edgar Allan Poe and Sylvia Plath, and you get introduced to all these classic novels, Tom Sawyer, Huckleberry Finn, and all. I mean, just tons and tons of stuff. When you hit fifth grade in the United States, it's usually when they start to implement all these different classic books. So that really started to grab my attention, and even earlier than that, in fourth grade, the Jack Tales did, and that's where my love of Southern historical fiction or Southern fables and things like that come from, is tales. So I really enjoyed writing from the time I was probably in fourth grade on up, but some of my classmates, I know they found it a bit of a struggle, and we were never really great at English. Let me just tell you, I hate I hate doing verbs, adverbs, nouns. I hate it. I can do it. I just, it's just not a fun exercise to me. When I took Spanish in high school, and after I took it some in elementary, but when I took it in high school, you're all's, English is totally different. And it's so much easier, I think, personally, for me. And that also opened up a whole other world of poets and things, because I could kind of translate what I was reading, and it was really neat to see. But I liked it. I know some people struggle with it. I struggle with my writing from time to time. But it's overall a passion, I think.
Absolutely, Stacy. Absolutely. At the end of the day, it's passion. And you told me one thing about struggling on writing. We're going to talk about more about that later. It's one of my points of creativity process. Amigos y amigas, bueno, Stacy nos acaba de comentar acerca de, bueno, la experiencia que ella tuvo con sus compañeros cuando ella estaba creciendo, y nos comenta cómo, pues sí, realmente algunas clases de gramática y todo eso, pues son aburridas porque, pues tal vez el profesor no lo hace muy bien, o tal vez también porque dicen, oye, pues no me interesa, ¿no? También nos comenta ella que cuando ya llegó a la parte de leer la literatura en español y traducirla al inglés, pues fue lo que más le agradó, porque fue meterse en estos mundos y sobre todo ver que la literatura es interesante. Pero a final de cuentas también, como todo, puede ser también por gustos. En mi caso personal, les puedo comentar que al inicio pues no me gustaba mucho leer de niño, y al final, pues lo amé porque me encantaba leer en voz alta con mis compañeros y había muchísimas otras historias que contar. Entonces, eso Stacy nos comenta. Y también eso de la dificultad de escribir, ahorita lo vamos a hablar un poco más adelante. Stacy, on my case, again, on that topic, I remember hating reading when I was a kid. I hated reading. Remember that my Spanish teacher and my English teacher always told me, please read these two books for this weekend. And on Monday, we're going to talk about what was the story. And I said, oh, I don't want to really read. I want to do other things. But I remember one time my mom started reading the book. It was, I don't remember. It was Don Quixote. I remember, I think it was Don Quixote or other stories. I don't remember right now. But I remember my mom starting reading to me, and I told myself, okay, this is a really nice story. I now want to read that. And then I started loving reading. And then I remember on English class that that was a very strange time. I remember those years. I remember it was December, and we needed to also for reading, for the reading class, to learn some songs for the. We're going to have a like an opera. I don't remember, a play. We're going to have a play. We're going to have a play in front of our classmates, and I remember the teacher told us, please read this song. Is Deck the Halls. You know Deck the Halls? The Deck the Halls song And I remember I was 4 or 5, I was 6, I was 7, no, 7 years old. And I remember all my classmates and I told myself, okay, we don't really know how to sing this. We don't really know how to read this because the only word, Stacy, that we really knew was the, the chorus of Deck the Halls and the Fa La 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 La. I remember. And I remember that my teacher got angry with us and told us, you need again to read this because you are going to present this song in front of all your parents and all your classmates on Christmas Eve. So please, if you don't get this reading correct, you are going to be she was going to put a bad grade to us. And we were really scared. We were 7 years old, and I remember that day, Stacy, we needed to practice. We started practice all my classmates and I reading and reading again the song. And at the end, we worked really well. But I'm going to confess you, Stacy, when we started singing in front of the class, uh, I remember we were very, very nervous and we forgot nearly all the song, but thanks to the part of the Deck the Halls, we started singing higher and higher when that part came. And I remember all the parents and all the classmates got really happy because, okay, you did it so great. It was perfect. And my teacher told us, okay, that was great. In reality, we only sang the part that we knew. And the other parts, thankfully, they had an audio playing, a different audio playing. And at the end, they talked, we sang very well, and that was an experience for me for reading. Amigos y amigas, regresando ahora a la parte en español, perdónenos, le comento a Stacy que de esta parte de la lectura, sin duda a mí sí se me dificultó de niño, porque honestamente no me gustaba, no me gustaba, pero gracias a mamá que le encantaba leerme historias, eso me inspiró muchísimo, entonces eso me ayudó a que me gustara ya la literatura. Me acuerdo que hubo una vez que nos pidieron incluso aprendernos canciones, y era la época navideña como ahorita. Y teníamos que aprendernos la canción de Deck the Halls en inglés. Pero teníamos 7 años y no éramos muy expertos en el inglés. Entonces, al momento de cantar la canción, solo nos sabíamos el coro y las estrofas. No nos sabíamos más. Y pues en ese momento la maestra nos dijo, si no se saben la canción, los voy a reprobar y tienen que, por favor, leer bien cómo se pronuncia estas palabras. Y al final, pues lo hicimos bien, pero realmente les vamos a contar que pues hicimos trampita porque solamente nos sabíamos el coro y la otra parte afortunadamente había un audio de fondo y pues eso nos ayudó muchísimo para no hacer el ridículo. But again, Stacy, this is one of my reading stories or when love of writing and also when I love to read, no? Stacy, another question for continuing our talk. First of all, what do you love the most when creating stories? ¿Qué amas más cuando estás creando tus historias? Please, Stacy.
First, I'm just going to say you're really brave to get up there and sing Deck the Halls. You want to freak a writer out real fast, get them to do some public speaking. Because they'll do it. I can't imagine public singing, but I bet that was cute though. It sounds like a great story for sure. Yeah. So what do I love most about creating stories? Basically, I love the final result. I love when the book is finished and when I can share it with everyone and I can show off my cover and the formatting and all that great stuff that goes with it. But more importantly, it's inside the book because a lot of my books are about where I'm from. So they offer history of people and places and things that I know have happened here in my community and around my community. And then just diving into those lives from those people that lived here and that were real, getting to know them and their character as a whole is huge. And it can be a lot of fun. And sometimes I found out some really crazy, interesting things. For example, Brenda Irwin, her grandfather was a barber, according to one of the censuses. And she didn't know that because he was also a U.S. Marshal later on. But, you know, another great thing about creating stories is hearing those voices of those characters in your head and getting to give them that voice with an audio book. So ACX makes it possible for us to do that as indie authors. And we can hire some really great individuals in their voices to show off our characters. And I've been fortunate to have three very wonderful narrators: Tori Puckett for Dividing Ridge, Stephen Marsden for Devil's Ridge, and for Patriots Ridge, it's Phil Thompson. So they've just been phenomenal.
No, absolutely, absolutely. All this process that you are telling me, it's really interesting because I have seen I have seen how your covers, and it's a really interesting story. Again, I fell in love more with the third part of Patrick's Speech. I really love more this the third part. Again, you told me when you are showing your work with your friends and your coworkers or maybe your family, it's a really interesting it's a really interesting thing because people are going sometimes to say, wow, you wrote a really great story. On your case, Stacy, you wrote a really great story. And also in my case, Stacy, when I was in the book fair recently, the biggest book fair that I told you of Latin America, I love when the kids loved the Brigade DXT story. You know, I uploaded the videos. They told me we love Brigade DXT, and hearing the names of my characters being being screaming by the little kids and telling me, wow, this is a great story. I really love it. And also with the three West young men, they told me, wow, this is a great story. I really love it. And Latin dancing recently, with the dancing, Stacy, everybody went mad because, wow, I really love that you are creating this video game style inspired story with Latin music, and also you are taking many cues from other movies that I really love, like Ready Player One, and also the Sword Art Online show that I really love. But mixing that with your Latin culture, I'm really getting all the people excited. So it's interesting, no? Again, you told me when this kind of reactions you get, it's a really rewarding thing of when writing. And also, it's another part that I really love on this journey. Besides the awards that are really great, I'm not going to lie. But when people, on my case, that children got to me and told me, I really love your book, Stacy, that moment I told myself, well, the 9-year-old kid that had this dream of creating these great stories, it's having this recognition is really nice. And also hearing from a child that tells me, I really love the Latin dancing book, the Brigade DXT book. I really love that. I really love that, and I agree 100% with you on these rewarding things o creating things. Amigos y amigas, regresando a la parte en español, primero traduciendo lo que nos dijo Stacy. ¿Qué es lo que amas más a la hora de crear tus historias? Y bueno, Stacy nos comenta que lo principal que nada es el proceso, crear tu portada, crear tu escritura, el tener tu estilo, el hecho de que incluso en este caso aquí utilizó ficción histórica y que fueron personajes que existieron en la vida real y que incluso personas cercanas a ellos digan, oye, me gustó tu historia. Y al mismo tiempo que nos comenta Stacy que muchísimas personas dijeron, oye, pues esto está bueno, esto continúalo, esto es algo excelente. Ese tipo de cosas como autor te ayudan muchísimo porque te ayudan mucho a crecer. Además de los reconocimientos, obviamente, que le comento a Stacy, que es lo mejor también, no vamos a negarlo, el hecho que te escuchen y que digan, oye, me encantó tus libros, es maravilloso. En mi caso, le estaba también comentando a Stacy que, bueno, recientemente estuvimos en la Feria Internacional del Libro Infantil y Juvenil. Y el hecho de que cuando yo me presenté para hacer Brigada Deporte, Latin Dancing y los Jóvenes Reyes Magos, y que los niños y niñas se me acercaron y me dijeron, oye, me encantó tu historia, amé los personajes, oye, me encantó el tráiler que pusiste, me encantó esto, cómo combinas películas al estilo Sword Art Online, series como Sword Art Online y Ready Player One, o sea, y que lo combinas con nuestra música latina y que pones a los Reyes Magos, o sea, es magnífico. Entonces esas cosas son las que hacen a uno muy feliz. And again, Stacy, returning with the part of these books first, Stacy, on your experience when on these virtual book fairs and also other events that you have been, what is the most a meaningful story when meeting other people that read your book. ¿Cuál es esta historia de la gente que vio tu libro y cuál fue la historia que más te encantó? O sea, que te dijeron, wow, me encantó tu historia. Please, Stacy, what is your
So,
most?
yeah, so when I wrote Dividing Ridge, it was based on a true story. It actually happened in my community in 1937. A lot of the family members were still living. They were older, but they understood and they knew what happened back then. And so it was really interesting to have them come in, especially Brenda Irwin, Walter Irwin's granddaughter. He was sheriff at the time. He was the individual trying to solve the case. And Brenda brought with her this whole huge collection of newspaper articles about her grandfather. And that was just so neat to see. And it also inspired me and gave me the drive I needed to finish the second book, Devil's Rich. But the other meaningful interaction I've had is with Elva's family themselves. Her great niece actually owns the store that sells my books here in town, and it happens to be in Smithy's store. So the store plays a part also in real life still today. But then another one is an elderly lady, and she was close to 100 or over 100. She actually went to school with Elva. She walked with her, and she came to one of my book signings, and she talked to me and told me all about her, and it was really meaningful. So things
No,
like that are truly treasures and truly meaningful. And it's really amazing the interaction that, and the impact one book can have.
of course. One little book that you talk, okay, this is a great story I wanted to write. But at the end of the day, when more people, like you told me, are reaching with you and telling Stacy, you wrote this great story, it's really meaningful. And I agree completely with you. And it's so great to see that even all the characters that your book were inspired, many of the relatives of them came to you and told you, okay, this story is really great. Thank you again. And this is also another thing I share with that person. So it's really interesting. It's really interesting. Amigos y amigas, Stacy nos acaba de comentar esto de cuál es la historia más reconfortante de esto de conocer a las personas en el momento de que escribiste tu libro. Y ella nos comenta mucho de que conoció en este caso a los familiares de los personajes que estuvieron involucrados en estas historias que Stacy escribió y que se le acercaron muy amablemente y que le agradecieron. Y al mismo tiempo, pues le presentaron incluso con mucho más historias que había detrás de estos personajes y le permitió eso a Stacy a crear más historias en este universo de Divided Rich Books. Y sin duda, pues eso a final de cuentas es algo increíble porque esto de que la gente se te acerque es increíble. Stacy, another question. Eh, what other genres, besides the one you write, you would like to try or you are planning to write? ¿Cuáles otros géneros te gustaría ver además del que ya eres experta?
So I'd like to dive a little bit into mountain folklore. That's kind of a thing right now that I'm looking into a little bit. I really liked. There's several different stories, like I was telling you, the fables, the Jack tales, and all that. Those are always been interesting to me. So I really just want to try my hand at maybe some of that, but we'll see. I also like to try my hand at some more true crime again. I did enjoy writing Dividing Ridge, and adding my own little historical fiction twist to it, but maybe this time make it more true crime than actual, than adding in the fiction and stuff. So those are two things that I'd really like to try. I admire people that write fantasy. I admire the heck out of those people. If you can write fantasy, that's amazing. It's great. Sci-fi is another thing. If I ever could, I would really like to write sci-fi.
Okay, no, absolutely. Sci-fi, I think it will really great for you. On Patriots Reach, I noted many things that could work on a sci-fi story. Kind of I don't know if you have seen the series of Westworld.
Yes.
Or
Yeah.
I talk kind like that
Yeah.
for a story, no. No, at the end of, again, on my case, Stacy, other genres that I would like to write. Well, I have wrote fantasy, I have wrote sci-fi. I would like to write honestly an horror novel like Stephen King but I'm in the process. I'm in the process because I plan to do that genre with the fourth part of the Hurricanes 2007 saga. Will be called Shadows of the Darkness, and it will be very inspired by the movie again 28 days later. And also, I don't know if you have seen the movie uh, Sinister of Scott Derrickson. Well, it's a really very scary movie, and I told myself I would like to have a try for those genres because I'm going to tell you, when I saw 28 days later and 28 weeks later as a kid by mistake, I was really scared. I remember I remember crying when those movies finished. I was 11 years old. I
Oh,
remember those movies were after an NFL game. I told you the story. I remember an NFL game had finished, and I thought it was going to be an adventure movie I really, when 30 minutes on the movie, I realized that it was an horror movie. But those movies really, really impacted me. And I told myself, okay, for tackling my fear of those movies, I would like to do a story that tackles that fear. So I really want to do that on Hurricanes 2074. And also on the next book that I'm writing, Codice MX, I would like to add some touches of mystery, very inspired on the stories of Agatha Christie that I really love, and also I would like to do more of like you told me, more these mountain folks, mountain stories, folklore. I would like to do that, but right now I'm still processing that, and also I would like to do an a true story. I don't know if you know, Mexico has suffered many earthquakes. Recently, we have one, and my mom lived the 1985 earthquake, but that was the most damaging one on my country. And on 2017, I remember I was on university, and there was another earthquake on the same day as in 1985, and many people as me were really scared because how could an earthquake happen on the same day, nearly at the same time, 32 years later. So I'm really interested on writing a story. I have the title. It's called The Generation of September, 1985, 2017. It would be a story about a man, a boy that lives this earthquakes, and also listening to the stories of those who lived the 1985's the earthquakes. So I would like to try that. I'm already thinking on writing that, but I'm going to wait a little bit when I wrote the other books, no? And other story, Stacy, I would love to do, it's a tribute for all my classmates and me that were in the on the law school, because I studied law, but I really love more international law that the law as general. But I would like to do an story. And I remember when I was in your program the first time, I mentioned that I wanted to write Relationships of the Law. It's going to be a novel that makes a tribute for those who study law in Mexico, and also to make kind of a slice of life story. As I don't remember if you have seen the Goodwill Hunting, I would like to do like a story like that, and also like other movies that are really simple and for enjoying life, ¿no? I would like to do that, but I'm on the process. Y bueno, amigos y amigas, les estoy comentando, Stacy, ya para concluir el programa de este bloque. Tenemos tantas historias, Stacy y yo, que contar. Que sin duda, pues me gustaría también tocar otros géneros. Stacy nos comenta que quisiera tocar los géneros también de ciencia ficción, de historias de clásicas del campo, también le gustaría tocar, más crímenes, o sea, de historias de crimen verdadero también le gustaría tocar. A final de cuentas, Stacy tiene una gran versatilidad y le deseamos también lo mejor en eso. Y en mi parte, bueno, me gustaría escribir otras historias también de historias verdaderas, estoy en proceso todavía, y como Relaciones en Derecho, La Generación de Septiembre, también son historias que estoy preparando, y unas de horror, en este caso con Huracanes 2007-4, que es la idea meter un poco de horror. Stacy, for finishing this blog and this great talk with you on the writing process, you told me at the beginning that you were struggling with your writing sometimes. On your case, Stacy, could you tell us how do you combat this struggling with writing? How do you, what do you do for when you are not writing as you would like to do? O sea, ¿qué haces cuando no te sientes cómoda a la hora de escribir? Please, Stacy, go ahead.
You know, I take a step back and I stay away from it for a little bit. I go out and do something for myself. You know, either it's spending time with family, friends, watching a movie. Sometimes if I'm just unwinding, listening to music or reading something different outside of my genre, sometimes it'll hit me and I'll be like, oh, I need to go write this down before I forget it. But you know, it's just a matter of relaxing and just letting all the anxiety of it go, because it can get busy.
Absolutely. Y bueno, amigos y amigas, Stacy nos acaba de comentar que pues cuando uno tiene estas dificultades de escribir, pues tantito deja la historia, pero ya más adelante va pues a continuar con la historia. Y para terminar ahorita ya, porque Graciela ya está aquí, nuestra productora, en mi parte, en este caso, cuando yo tengo estas dificultades, pues escribo también como Stacy, me espero y pues ahora sí que después continúo. On my case, Stacy, again as you, I normally stop writing for a little bit and then I start writing again when I feel that is the time for continuing the story. Y bueno, amigos y amigas, en este caso, pues les agradecemos muchísimo de nuevo esto de esta plática que tuvimos Stacy y yo. Y al mismo tiempo, por favor, síganos nuestro programa de literatura actual. Y por favor, Stacy, could you tell us your social media, please, again?
Yes, so you can find me at Dividing Ridge Books on Instagram at Dividing Ridge Author, or you can find me on Twitter at DRidge Books. You can also find us on Facebook and check out our link trees for all of our links, or you can find us on Twitter, aka X, at The Writing Wall for more.
Thank you, Stacy. Amigos y amigas, ya lo escucharon. Sigan a Stacy en Twitter, Facebook e Instagram para más historias de Dividing Rich Books. En mi caso, pueden seguirme a mí como Darío Aguilar Peregrina en todas las redes sociales posibles. Y bueno, aquí nos van a poder seguir encontrando a Stacy y yo en su programa de literatura actual. You are going to see us on the next Literature Today programs. And thank you again for those who went to see this great talk on this book fair. Stacy, Graciela, te dejo completamente, Graciela, para terminar.
Thanks, Stacy. Muchas gracias, Darío.
Thank you, Stacy.
Adiós.
Y vamos cerrando. Adiós, adiós. Vamos
Feliz
cerrando.
Navidad.
Feliz
Feliz Navidad a ti
Navidad.
también. Feliz Navidad. Para ir
Thank
cerrando
you.
este bloque y esperar el que viene, que también es gente de México, la Embajada Cultural INDAI en México, que va a presentar un grupo de escritores y ellos van a hablar sobre sus obras. Así que nos preparamos para eso también. Gracias por haber participado en esta tercera Feria Internacional del Libro INDAI. Bye, bye. Bueno, así nos despedimos entonces de este bloque y volvemos en un ratito.